Hello and welcome to another week of Sambo iRacing. It's week 4, season 2, 2024. We are in the Ray Formula Ford FF1600 at Okayama International Circuit for their full course layout. Once again, another great track, another great week of racing ahead. I think iRacing have really outdone themselves this season, and it should be the most interesting season that we've had in quite a long time. If you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. Please like, subscribe. What we do is we do a lap where I slow it down, I show you my braking markers, where I increase the throttle, that sort of thing, and then I run it through at full speed from the chase cam, and then once again at full speed from the cockpit cam with the driving line on. Any questions, please let me know. I've got my brake balance bias, at 54% for this lap, and yeah, any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the cockpit. Okay, just before we start the lap, bit of housekeeping. So as I mentioned on the V video, I use RaceLab's overlays. They link to them is in my description, and they have updated their weather widget now. So it now represents the wind direction. Previously, if you weren't aware, it was like a weather vane, so it pointed in the direction the wind was coming from, but now it actually points in the direction the wind is going. So as you can see here on the main straight, it is coming from the north to the south directly into my face. So just be aware of that. Okay, so as we start the lap, we're in 4th gear, we're over on the left-hand side, and what we're looking for is once we go past the 100-meter marker and before the blue cone on the right-hand side, you see there is a fire extinguisher on the left-hand side, just on the wall there. Now that's great because it's off track, and if you've got cars in front, you can still see it. That is my braking marker, so just after I go past that, I'm going to brake in a straight line really quite hard, up to about 90% in a straight line. As I start moving towards the apex, I'm going to trail it off. I drop it down into 3rd gear. I've got a tiny bit of maintenance throttle on, just so that when I drop it down into 2nd now, I'm not going to lock up the rears. I take a big bit of curb. I even take a little bit of dirt here on the right-hand side, but that's absolutely fine. I drop it down to 2nd gear, as you can see, and I get on the throttle nice and early, let the car over to the left-hand side, get it straight back over to the right-hand side. Now, just as we get to this dirt patch on the right-hand side here, so where the grass finishes and the dirt patch, this is because cars go over it in real life, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a big lift, and I'm going to give it the very barest of touches on the brake. So I only go up to 7%. As you'll know, if you watch me regularly, that will mean that we're not actually looking to slow the car down with that. All we're looking for is a little bit of weight transfer from the rear to the front, so that the front tyres can actually bite into the tarmac and start turning me for this corner without too much understeer. So holding the lift, slowly building up, just sort of feathering the throttle, looking for where the grip is, getting over to the apex here on the left-hand side, making sure that I take a big amount of curbing. And as I leave the apex, I'm going to build back up on the throttle, as you can see, and go up to 100%, go over to the right-hand side, start moving back over, up to 4th gear on the blue light, keeping it as straight as possible. And now what we're looking for is in between the 50-meter marker and the 100-meter marker is going to be our next braking zone. So as we get there, you can see I brake in a straight line really quite hard, up to about 95%. I start trailing it off, drop it down to 3rd as I look for the apex. Again, I'm keeping a bit of maintenance throttle on, drop it down to 2nd, and I'm on the throttle really, really early there. So as you can see on the map, I'm not even a third of the way through the corner when I'm back on 100% throttle in 2nd gear. Now, I let my exit go out wide in the Ford so that I can get the maximum speed on the straight. If you do hook it over to the right, you make back a few hundredths, but you then lose it on the straight because you've scrubbed your tyres. Now I'm looking for the next braking marker, which is just after the 100-meter marker here on the left-hand side as we go towards the hairpin. So as I get there, I'm going to brake in a straight line really quite hard, up to 100%, I think I actually get to here. I'm still in a straight line as I go past the marker post, so I've been braking in a straight line almost as hard as I can for 50 meters at this point, and only at that point, once I'm past there and I've wiped off an awful lot of revs, do I drop it down into 3rd gear, and then as I start moving towards the apex once again, that's when I'm going to trail it off, keeping a tiny bit of maintenance throttle on as I drop it down to 2nd gear, and then at the apex, drop it down to 1st gear, build back up to 100%, let the car drift out to the left, get it back over to the right, up to second gear, and basically as soon as you get over to the right-hand side, we're going to do a tiny dab of the brakes, only up to about 26%, so a quarter. And I'll move back over to the left-hand side, and I'm going to feather the throttle once again, and then get back on 100%, let the car drift out. You don't want to be any further to the right than I am here, so as long as your left-hand tyres are on the asphalt, you're not going to have an off-track, but you don't really want to be hitting the sand any harder than I am. And what we're looking for is this white line across the road here at the end of the entrance road. That's going to be my next braking marker. Not going to brake very hard. Again, only up to about a quarter. I'm going to feather the throttle, just give a bit of maintenance throttle on, making sure that I can turn in and get the rotation into this next corner, turn 7. And then as I leave the apex, fully back on the throttle, over to the right-hand side, take plenty of curb. Now we're looking for the next brake. So here, as we go into Red Man Corner, which is turn 8, just before the 50-meter marker, what we're going to do, let's get exactly on the 50-meter marker. Again, I'm going to brake quite hard in a straight line. So up to 100%. How can I get it up to 100% without locking the brakes? Well, as I mentioned before, I have a brake bias of 54%. So that means that it's very evenly balanced. For these track conditions, it means I'm not locking up the fronts or the rear, and I can get maximum braking force, get all that traction going in a straight line to slow the car down before I start attempting the turn. Keep it in third gear. I'm going to feather the throttle again. I'm going to trail the brake off, drop it down to second gear, and then once again on the apex, I'm going to drop it down into first gear and get up to 100% throttle, nice and early, over to the left-hand side. Now, you can leave it in first here. I change up to second, and I'll tell you why. As we go into Hobbs, which is turn 9 now, this right-hander, we're going to do a really big lift on the throttle. Now, if you leave it in first gear and then you do a big lift whilst applying the brakes, you can get real tail happy. It's savable, but I don't think it's faster. So I know the VRS coach likes to keep it in first round here. I totally understand that. I have done myself. But on these conditions, for me, I found it easier to go up to second gear right now. So see, I've gone up to second gear so that when I do this little dab of brakes and I do a big lift, I'm not locking up the rears. Now, I do drop it down to first once the revs have come down a little bit. So on the apex here, back down to first, 100% brake, 100% throttle. Let the car drift down, up to second on the blue, up to third, flat out through this last corner, second to last corner here, Mike Knight corner. So previously, before the rescan, if you went over this rumble strip, it could send your car up into orbit. Doesn't do that anymore, so you can really take it, but don't cross the yellow line on the right. Then what we're looking for is the end of this asphalt here. Just as we come past the end of this, we're going to do our final bit of braking, up to about 85%, but very, very brief. Keeping it in third until the revs come down, and then drop it down to second, then back full throttle. The car will drift out wide, don't go in the sand, and over it and across the line in a 1:36.392. Now this was my 8th lap, and I stopped at this point because that's roughly how far you would go in a race. So that would be the end of it. Thanks very much, and let's go to the chase cam. Okay, back in chase cam mode as we cross the line to start the lap. So over on the left-hand side, trail it off, down to second. Nice trail brake, as you can see on the telemetry there. Big lift, tiny dab of the brakes. Build back up on the throttle. Change up on the blue. Over to the left. Midway between the 100 and the 50. Going to brake hard. Down to third, down to second. I like it to run wide there, as I say, because it scrubs your tyres less. You get a higher top speed on this straight. Got the wind blowing behind me, so I've got to be aware of that going into the braking zone. If the wind is going into your face, you can brake that a little bit later. Another long trail brake off, as you can see there. Up to second. Little lift. Run wide. Little brake. Plenty of curb. On the outside again here. Final really tough corner that we're going to have. Down to first on the apex. Up to second I prefer, so I don't get the rear locking up here. As you can see, it's already tail happy enough. Up to second, up to third, cut that corner, final corner, quick trail off, down to second, let it run wide, blast off to the line for a 136. 392. Final time from the cockpit with the driving line on. Okay, final run through. I'll turn the wheel noise up. Driving line is so off-putting. Thanks once again for taking the time to watch my videos. I've been Sambo iRacing. I shall see you in